Up with Jordan and Ron.
Hi, welcome to Hooking Up with Jordan and Ron. I'm Jordan.
I'm Ron.
And today we have a special guest, our friend Josh, who is a local trivia guy.
Trivia guy.
Extraordinaire. I use that word a lot. I guess I called Colby like a friend extraordinaire, but that was our last guest. But Josh is really someone who has developed quite a wide network of trivia events, not only here, but in Lansing too, right?
East Lansing.
East Lansing,
yeah.
my bad. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I know you do stuff locally at several of the bars around town and have been doing so now for, well, really since the pandemic, right? And you have developed quite a following. You also have an interesting background, so we'll touch on that too. But what brought you to trivia hosting?
So it was kind of an accident I fell into. I've been in the service industry since forever. And I started, I was doing a lot of trivia nights, just serving tables, and I ended up befriending the past trivia guy. We had a lot of similar interests, and I found him super interesting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was, obviously he had all sorts of knowledge
Yeah.
about all sorts of niche stuff. So him and I got to talking, and I subbed in for him a couple times, and I really enjoyed it. And then the opportunity arose for me to, make my own event at the bar that I was bartending at. And, I didn't want to step on his toes.
Sure.
Spoiler alert, I ended up stepping on his toes.
Was this at the Brown Jug?
This was at the Blue Leprechaun.
Oh, okay.
Same
Okay.
owners, yeah,
Okay.
over on South University Avenue.
Cool.
Yeah, go there and spend money. So I had the chance to come up with my own event, and I did my own specifically theme trivia. I said, rather than general knowledge, let's do like theme trivia Thursdays. So we ran, The Office when that was really big,
So popular.
Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and I could go through the whole old story in gory detail, or
Were you into those shows yourself, or did it take like some additional research rather, to get some knowledge?
So at the risk of alienating myself from society writ large, I'll say I am not a fan of The Office.
Okay.
But I
That's
recognized its pull.
Sure,
And we actually had our first theme trivia night on the day of a tornado.
Oh.
We happened to be in the basement, so it was the place to be for more reasons than one.
Right.
And we packed, it felt like the entire city of Ann Arbor
Oh my
was
gosh.
there. The Office was and remains like crazy popular.
Totally.
So I'll chase whatever trend I need to.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Do you
cool.
create your own questions or you use pre-programmed stuff?
I'd say 90% I create my own. I do
Wow.
we'll say draw inspiration from other sources. I come up with my own. I come up with the categories, and then we narrow down from there.
Mhm.
And then more recently, I've had this thing called ChatGPT helping me out.
I've heard of that.
Kind of pruning the questions
Uh-huh.
and making them more presentable.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, I know I occasionally play trivia at a theater bar down in Adrian, and they use only pre-programmed stuff. It's like on
Okay.
a computer, and it's
Okay.
all timed.
Is it
and you-
Sporkle? Sorry, I probably shouldn't say
don't-
that out loud.
I have no idea.
Friggin' Sporkle.
No,
Sorry.
it's not.
Hater.
I don't think so. I don't know what theirs is. And sometimes the questions are like, they're just out of left field. Like,
Oh.
I just have no idea what they are.
Right.
Most people don't.
Like
you
what
know?
year did Rubbermaid come out? Like what?
Yeah.
Like yeah.
And of course, some people immediately know those, So the one thing that
Yeah.
struck me, like where I play, it's not like theater people that go to these trivia nights. It's like
Okay.
people from Adrian that come to this theater bar
Yeah.
to play trivia. What do you find? What's it like with the people in Ann Arbor
Yeah.
that play trivia? Are they
Are we
they
just so
regulars?
smart?
Do they
Just
like
the
just,
most smartest people?
Yeah, do they just wander around from place to place? Is it the same people? Is it like are there clubs? I mean, how does that work in Ann Arbor?
Huh.
So it's honestly a wide variety, especially if you take into consideration all of the venues that I
Oh,
perform
yeah.
at. There's a wide range of we'll get people who are, just turned 21 yesterday, excuse me, and are there just because they were going to be at the bar anyway.
Sure. And they're like, oh, we might as well play kind of thing.
Yeah. And then I transform them into regulars.
Oh, yes.
But we get people like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we'll get people who were looking for trivia specifically. There's actually a really good example is there's a big Discord group. I wish I knew the exact name, but basically it's for socializing in Ann Arbor.
Oh.
Might want to get them on the podcast at some point.
Right,
Cool.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they have a whole, if you go in their Discord, which for those unfamiliar is just like a socializing platform online. There's like there's a tab for, bird watching and hiking and this and this and then and this and that, and one for trivia, which is super active. And so you go on it, you say, I want to socialize with people in Ann Arbor, specifically people who are into trivia. And so that group has ballooned into this dedicated, like 20 plus person group that comes to my trivia every week.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
No, that's
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and what do you? So I think we kind of skipped over that question about are people in Ann Arbor like really smart?
Oh, well, yes. That just feels so second nature to me.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot. We get a lot of U of M students, and that's it's a bit of a challenge, honestly, because they're so smart that I have to. It's like if you take the median or the mean of a group of people, they sway it so much in the direction of like they know everything, and so it can. Unfortunately, it can feel a little bit alienating to. I won't say people who are less smart because that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
But people who are, don't necessarily have vast amounts of knowledge
Sure.
about pop culture from the
niche
early
interests.
2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're there for fun and not the
Yeah.
super competitive, which I've seen. We had one of the local organizations I belong to had a trivia night about a year ago, and it was very, very competitive. I mean,
Nice.
people, yeah, it got very competitive that night. One of your competitors, Michael, ran that one. And it was,
Oh.
yeah, and it was like people are like angry if they got questions
Oh.
wrong.
Oh, yeah.
and-
People will argue. It's
Yeah.
tough. I've seen
Yes.
it, and you handle it really well.
Oh,
That's
thank
got to
you.
be, it's a tough crowd. Like, I mean, not every night, but you know what I mean? When people get in there, and then people want clarifying questions. I've done it myself, right? Like, it's like, well, what do you mean? Did you mean this country over here or this flag or
Could
and
use that in a sentence, please.
I know, yeah, exactly.
And how do you handle that? How did you learn how
Yeah.
to handle that?
It was a steep learning curve for sure. And what still throws me to this day is when people vocalize their issues for everyone to hear.
Oh.
If so, someone shouts from where I can barely even hear them because they're
Yeah.
however many feet away, and it's like heckling a little bit.
Oh.
They're like, well, what do you mean? What did you say? And
Yeah.
that's really hard for me. I don't know how to deal with hecklers.
Yeah.
No, it's tough.
I'm no stand-up comedian, but and when people are respectful enough and sober enough to come up and ask me, privately,
Sure.
then I'll I've worked to. Also, let me tell a quick story. I
Yeah.
had this teacher in high school who he had a very specific policy where he would say during tests he would say, if you have a question or if you don't understand a question, I can read it for you. But he would never. He made a point of never like over clarifying a question
Oh.
because I didn't understand why at the time. I just thought he was a bit of an oddball. But now, being in a similar role, I understand that if very quickly you can accidentally give something away.
Oh.
So I adopted that same policy. Thank you, Mr. Foster, where
Wow.
I'll say, I'm happy to repeat the question as many times as you want.
Yes.
And you can, I don't want to be condescending. Like you can read it on my
Yeah.
laptop if you want, but I will not answer questions about like, oh, did you mean it like this?
Okay.
So it's a balancing act for sure.
It is. It is.
So how did you get from where you started in grad school to where you are now?
Huh.
So started as a side hustle. You know, it was grad school was not cheap, and you know, I was grad school age, so not living with my parents and anytime recently. And so I needed, you know, money. And this I had already begun the process I described earlier of accidentally stepping on the toes of a former trivia guy. And so I was invited to do it weekly, which, you know, turned into me putting pretty significant hours into trivia,
Yeah.
trying to balance that with grad school. The pandemic actually helped a lot with that balance because, you know, I was not able to do trivia for a while. I'm rambling now.
No, it's okay.
It started off as a side hustle, and then, you know, when graduation came around, I was like, I'm gonna do this for another month.
Okay.
Then, you know, job market being what it was and what
Sure.
it kind of still is, you know, post pandemic, I realized that I had fallen in love with the job.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was making me, you know, pretty solid money, and thank God. And it kind of transformed into my full-time thing.
Sure.
That's very cool. So you have one of those very cool U of M type graduate degrees.
Ooh.
And could you tell us what that is, please?
Sure, yeah. Have you heard of COVID-19?
I think I kind of remember that.
Oh, no.
Okay, well, it was crazy, let me tell you.
Right.
And it's, you know, as we know, that is a pandemic, with demic being the same suffix you get when you say epidemic.
Oh.
And so if we extrapolate a little bit on that, you get the word epidemiology,
Okay.
the study of epidemics. And so that is my graduate degree. It's a master's
wow.
of public health with a specific niche
Yeah,
or whatever.
Like a focus
major, I
area.
guess,
I mean,
yeah,
okay. Uh-huh.
of general epidemiology. And so I ended up actually, you know, the timing worked
Oh, my
out
gosh.
such that I
So you were
wrote.
already studying it
Oh, yeah.
during the oh, my gosh.
Well, we very neatly transitioned from studying, you know, HIV and like older epidemics to, oh shoot, there's one going on right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's kind of when I wrote my dissertation. I have a psychology PhD. It was sort of like,
Amazing.
yeah, it was like when HIV stuff was really, really like they were doing a lot of research at that
Oh,
point.
wow.
And I was just able to write my dissertation right on that.
Oh, my
you know,
gosh.
Oh, wow.
Impulsive behavior and use of,
Yeah.
safer sex techniques and things. And
Wow.
it just went right into the, it
Oh,
was
that's
so easy to write my
cool.
I'll bet.
dissertation, you know,
Whoa.
because it was timing. It was situational.
Right.
But, you know, and your situation, by the way, is not at all uncommon in Ann Arbor, where we have people that have got these amazing degrees, you know,
Mhm.
epidemiology, archaeology, you know, law, medicine, whatever, that don't do any of that. They do their passion.
Sure.
You know, and I kind of have a cool combination of both. You know, I have
Yeah.
a psychology clinic here, a brain injury clinic, but I do theater. That's my thing. I mean, that's my passion.
Yeah.
All right.
Nobody in Ann Arbor knows me as a guy that owns a brain injury
Right.
program.
Either
They all
like,
know me
oh,
as a
they're
theater
like, what's your
director and
other gig,
actor,
Ron?
Yeah, right. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm like, you know, and I love my day job. You know, my clients
Yeah.
are probably listening to this, but it's also, I have that passion of other things. I have theater, and, you know, you can't
That's so
necessarily
cool.
get paid for theater like you can for
No.
like hosting a trivia night, especially when you host all the trivia nights.
It's like every night, right?
It's most nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hopefully getting to every night. Which, you know, reminds me, I should say that it's not all me. You know, I have this amazing group of contractors
Nice.
that work for me. They do awesome work. So I write the questions, as we said, and I purchase the equipment. I negotiate with the bars, but then they take it into their own hands and they host
Wow.
all over Ann Arbor, and I have Olivia in East Lansing.
Cool.
That is very cool, actually.
It's
when you're
hard to
able
get that
take
started. Yeah. To expand in that way.
Yeah, when you can get a core of people that you like, that you trust, that can work for you, that's really, really super. So how do you fit in your own social life with all this? I mean, you have an incredibly social job. I
Right.
mean, there's
Yeah.
Right.
there's no
That's a good
doubting
point.
because
Right.
not
That
only
you're like
you know,
on
you have
the
to
whole
host,
time.
you have to talk with people, you have to get there early, you have to know your system, you have to know the people, you probably have a lot of people you've met
Uh-huh.
because of that. So where are you with your social life? I mean, do you find it overload? Do you find it's hard to meet other people, or what's it like
Hmm.
for you?
Yeah, I'll say at least at this stage in my life, you know, this is open to changing. I'm open to changing, but right now, yeah, frankly, I would say overload is the right word.
Yeah.
It's very, you know, obviously there are days where, you know, I'm groggy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've had an argument with someone 5 minutes before the show, and I just
Oh.
have to drop all of it and be
Yeah.
this fun loving guy, or this, you know, this entertainer.
Yeah.
And you know, plenty of people are familiar with that, and all the bartenders I work with are or work around are, you know, doing the same thing if they're good at their job.
That's a good point. Yep.
So yeah,
Right. Yeah, right. It's comparable because you have to be on the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I
Yeah.
will say, that I have developed genuine friendships. Looking at Jordan from
And
from
Antonio. And
Yeah.
yeah.
and a lot of people from trivia, and that is, you know, it's a bit of a shortcut. You know, I almost never, you know, go out just on my own anymore
Right.
to try and socialize. I'm just already there when I'm working.
Local celebrity. For
Well,
sure.
Again, yeah, you
Yeah.
work in that kind of very social,
Highly
job.
visible.
There's always people
Mhm.
around, so you're always meeting people. You know, which is the topic of our podcast.
Yeah, we
Right.
arrive.
Maintaining. Are there ever people that you run across that you're like, oh my goodness, how do I get rid of this person?
Oh man.
How do we make sure this person doesn't come back to another
Mhm.
trivia night? Or
Oh
how do
wow.
I keep this person away from me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know,
Jordan, I told you.
Well,
Yeah.
I've been reprimanded when
Yeah,
I
okay.
heckle and yeah,
Oh, yeah. We have a special corner for Jordan.
no.
Well, there you go. There.
No. Yeah, there every so often, very rare, but every so often there is kind of an unsavory person, especially when there's a combination of those kind of, I guess we'll call them hecklers,
Mhm.
and not only are they, you know, constantly upset about one thing or another, but they keep coming back, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what, are you getting any joy out of
Right.
this?
Like and you're so drunk. Like there's some of these people are just like, how are you even yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I if they're really disruptive, then we'll get them. We'll have a bouncer. You know,
Sure,
get them out
sure.
of there. But you know, for the most part, you just kind of grit your teeth and bear it.
Yep.
I mean, it's an annoying bar guest. That's not a totally foreign concept. You know.
No, not
That's
at all.
true. Yeah.
They're just smarter here. Yeah, but they can get just as drunk as the best of them.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
Indeed,
People are
sometimes
people.
drunker. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting toward the end of our time today. What is your advice for someone that wants to go out and play trivia? Like if I don't have a team, if I wanted to just go play somewhere, how do I get involved with that?
Definitely. You know, it sounds cliche or whatever, but just go at it and
Mhm.
put yourself out there. You know, people don't bite, hopefully, and yeah, I would say there are people who like to play solo, you know,
Mhm.
lone wolves or whatever, but for the most part, you can show up and people are very welcoming. You know, I personally don't put a limit on team sizes, so it's very much the more the merrier. There's hopefully no pressure to
Yeah.
contribute. But yeah, if you want to hop on a team, you know, I'm on the other side of it, so it's probably easier said than done, but I've definitely seen people just show up and kind of join a group.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It does seem
That's
to
really
be a
great.
welcoming community, I'd say, for
Yeah.
the most part, especially at Cirque. I don't know what it is about the Thursday night that seems a little different. I think maybe it's on another side of town. It's versus the undergrad side of town. Maybe it's a different vibe. I don't know if you feel that too, but they're all great locations.
Yeah. It certainly depends on the bar.
Mhm.
Different bars are kind of set up to be, I would say, more welcoming
Sure.
than others.
Oh, that's a good point. The whole
Um,
dynamic as you enter. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's out of my control.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
So if you're in the mood to play trivia,
Yeah.
check online, find out dates and times.
Yeah,
So you can
SMC
head
trivia.
to you can head to Cirque, you can head to
Mhm.
Brown Jug, you can head to Blue Leprechaun. You can head up to East Lansing.
You can.
You can go out to Chelsea or
field trip.
Dexter. You can go down to Adrian. You can.
There's so
there's
many
trivia
spots.
everywhere.
Yeah.
If you're in the Ann Arbor area, most likely you're gonna get to meet Josh. So say hi to him. let him know you heard him on our podcast. And we welcome and thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Coming.
Hey, thanks for having me.